Okay, now that we've got all the siding on the inside of the side frames, we're going to start to put it together and make it look like a car. So the way I do this is I've got this jig here that I glue, that I use to assemble to keep the car square. I'll mark the side I want it to be the inside on here, and I'll make sure I glue that, on the inside. And then we're just going to glue these, make sure you square off these ends. And we're just going to glue this together. Just butt it up to the end of that, and it should look just like that. You go around and glue all four corners, and then we'll come back and put the siding on the inside of here. So I'm going to glue this up, and again I'm going to use my Loctite gel, and I'm going to do the same method, just put a little glue on the inside of here. And then I'm going to find that mark. Okay, and I'm just going to keep working my way around till this thing, all four sides are on it. Okay, I've got all four sides glued together. There it is. And what we're going to do now here is I'm going to take a measurement of the, using my dial caliper, and I'm not only going to have to turn it on to do this, set that loose there. And the way I do it is I just take a measurement across the inside here, and I'm not going to get it tight. I could go all the way out to the edge, but I'm going to leave a little bit of a gap so it's got a little bit of space in there. It's about, I don't know, 20 thousandths, somewhere around there. I'm going to do about 10 thousandths. I'm going to set that aside. And we're going to get out the chopper, lower that down. We're going to loosen that, slide that over, and stick our dial caliper up against the blade, slide that up to the dial caliper, and we're going to tighten that screw down. And we're going to get more of that same siding material we put on the car sides, and we're going to cut off 4 pieces for each car end. Alright, now we can do both sides at the same time. I would suggest measuring both. They might be slightly different on each end. And then what we're going to do is we're just going to go ahead and we're going to glue these, starting from the top down. We're going to glue these all 4 pieces down, just leaving slight gaps between each one like we did on the sides there. Weather these up if you want to, some more if you want to make some more rotted boards or whatever. And let's go ahead and we'll get these all the way down each end of the car. So before I forget and get too far here, when we glue this together, there's not much of a ledge right here. So you have to make these boards long enough to just get on those edges there. If you leave too much gap with your dial caliper, you're going to miss these edges here. And then I'm going to use a toothpick with some glue to just get some dots on there so I can catch the edges of those boards. Okay, I've got the siding on both ends. Now it's starting to look like something. And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to glue these heavy timbers across the ends of the car here. This would be, I call these the bolsters of the car, even though it's not really the bolster. We're going to actually make it a bolster kind of body support all in one. And what we're going to use is we're going to use the 1/4 by 3/8 and the 3/16 by 1/4 basswood pieces to make those. Now, earlier I said, and I said it twice, that I don't pre-finish the car by staining the wood, and that's because I've made several pieces of my cars out of resin to kind of speed things up, and it allows me to use some of these on the car, and then I paint the car base color that looks like basswood, and then I go and weather that, weather it to look like wood. And so if I were to stain all this, then I would have to try to paint these to match, but it's easier to just paint the whole car and then go ahead and use washes and stuff to make it look like weathered wood. But on this car I'm not going to use this, because I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to show you how I made that piece to begin with using these 2 pieces of basswood. So what you want to do is cut 2 pieces out the width of this here, and using the dimension you've got measured from up here. That way it'll, if you measure down here, these pieces could be tipped in a little bit, and then your car would kind of be squeezed in on the bottom. So you want to take this measurement up here at the top corners, cut out these pieces, and then when we glue these together, if these are in too close, we'll kind of push these out, and that'll help square up the whole car. So go ahead and, if you have a dial caliper, if you're using a ruler, but take a measurement at the top corners and cut 2 of these out. Okay, I've got my 2 pieces cut out here, and I probably should add that you can't use a Northwest Sharpline chopper to cut these out. They're too thick. So I use a miniature miter box. I think I got mine from Micro Mark. It uses a razor saw, and I just cut these out. Clean up the edges if you have to. Now these pieces are going to go on the ends of the car here, and when you glue these in, you're going to want to make sure that the edges, the outside edges, are flush here. And that was the purpose of cutting them, measuring from the corners. But before we do that, what we have to do is take a measurement of the distance from this surface of the bolster frame member to the face of the end of the car, because we have to cut a slight pocket in here to accept the frame members. So it's all going to be level all the way across here. Now you could have taken, if you have the tools to do it, I don't, but you could take and reduce the height of this entire member so that it's flush all the way across. But since I don't have the ability to do that, I just got the closest thing I could get, so it meant that I had to remove the least amount of material. And then I'll take the a piece of wood here, and I'm going to just lay it across the car like that, and I'm going to use my dial caliper here to measure the distance in between here. And I've got about 80 thousandths. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to center this piece here, which we're going to use for our frame. I'm going to center this off of each side here. This is a piece of that 3/8 wide by 1/8. It doesn't really matter as long as it's 3/8 wide, but for what we're doing here. But we're going to take an equal measurement, get it centered. We're going to mark it on both of them, and then we're going to take these out, and I'm going to cut down an 80 thousandths pocket in there. Okay, I've got my pieces made. I've got my notches cut in there, and you'll know when you got them right when you lay this across the car, and there's no gaps here, and there's no gaps here. there's a little bit of gaps here and here, that's okay. You could probably shim those up, and you won't really see in there. If it's really even close and you're using this stuff, you can even put a little extra in there and it'll fill that up. We're going to leave it at that for right now, and when we get back to it, we'll go ahead and we're going to cut the frame out, and the frame will depend on if you're making a operating car or a non-operating car. If you're making an operating car, we're going to cut partial frame pieces to go in here to leave this center open. If you're doing a non-operating car, you're going to cut one long frame piece. And the Mans Creek used two smaller frame pieces. They'd be like two members side by side, but they used Lincoln pin couplers, and I'm going to use the KD 803 couplers for ON3. So I use one thin piece so that we can make a coupler pocket on here, because the coupler height for, if you're going with an ON or NMRA height, will almost be, to the bottom. This will be a little bit below this. Now, if you're doing an ON30 car and you're using the ON30 height that Bachmann uses, which is HO NMRA, then you would use a solid, that same solid 3/8 material that we use, and you'll make one solid frame, because the couplers will just go right on the bottom of these. Or if you're making an operating ON30 car using ON30 height, you'd make two short pieces here. So we'll get to that next time.